Congress is moving to slow down President Obama's plan to let 10,000 Syrian refugees into the United States next year. Both Republicans and Democrats voted in favor of the measure in the House of Representatives.
The vote came as concerns about terrorism have been rising after the attacks in Paris. And Congress is also taking up the debate again on just how much the government should be able to monitor our private communications. Dale Hurd has that story.
The yeas are 289 and the nays are 137. The bill is passed.
Responding swiftly to the Paris terror attacks, the House passed a bill to keep all Syrian and Iraqi refugees out of the U.S., at least for now. The bill requires top national security officials to personally certify that each refugee from Syria or Iraq is not a threat. That's in addition to the current screening process, which takes up to 2 years.
We will not welcome terrorists.
3/4 of them are women and children. 1/4 of them are over 60 years of age. Refugees are not the enemy.
Don't you think that common sense dictates that we should take a pause and get this right?
More than 2,000 Syrian refugees already live in the U.S., but now more than 30 governors say they won't accept more. The White House has vowed the president will veto the House bill if it reaches his desk, but there are enough votes to override a veto. That's because the president's own party is divided about the refugee issue. 47 Democrats voted for the bill, but the bill faces a tougher road in the Senate where many Democrats oppose it. The Paris attacks have also reopened the debate over anti-terror surveillance versus personal privacy. Some Republicans, including presidential candidate Senator Marco Rubio, are pushing to extend and revise the National Security Agency's phone data collection program. But another candidate, Senator Rand Paul, opposes keeping the program going. And the technology industry is also against another possible anti-terror measure, giving the government a so-called backdoor that would let it break the encryption that keeps online messages hidden. Terrorists have used encryption to communicate privately, but it's also used to protect personal information, business activities, and so on. So the debate over privacy versus security is far from over. And the next terrorist attack may make it more intense than ever. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, the next terrorist attack has just occurred. The headline stays the same. This time it's a different country. Muslims attacked a hotel in the African nation of Mali today. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The gunman took at least 170 people hostage in the attack, and at least 3 were killed before special forces went in and set some of the hostages free. An Army commander says 10 men stormed the Radisson Blu Hotel with guns and grenades, shouting Allahu Akbar, or Allah is great. They then fired on guards before taking guests and employees hostage. The Radisson Blu is a popular hotel among foreigners. Turning to the Mideast, Israel suffered its deadliest days yet in its current wave of terror. 5 died in 2 separate attacks, including an American teen who was there simply to study and volunteer. CBN's Chris Mitchell brings us the story from the scene of one of those attacks.
American Ezra Schwartz came to Israel to join a program co-sponsored by the Jewish Agency and the Israeli government. The head of the Jewish Agency, Natan Sharansky, found his death even more tragic because Schwartz came to be part of the vibrant Israeli experience. This is the scene of the terror attack where Ezra Schwartz and 2 others were killed. A 24-year-old Palestinian terrorist from nearby Hebron drove up in this lane of traffic and began shooting into the next lane with an automatic rifle. He killed Ezra, a Palestinian, an Israeli, and wounded 7 others. This video caught the aftermath when Israeli police surrounded the terrorist. Earlier in the day, 2 more Israelis died in Tel Aviv when 36-year-old Raed Mahmoud walked into a synagogue and began randomly stabbing worshipers during afternoon prayers. He worked in a restaurant next door. Hamas praised both of the attacks that came almost 1 year to the day after a major terror attack on a Jerusalem synagogue that killed 4 during morning prayers. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the terrorists will pay a price for these attacks, and Israeli officials continue to blame incitement by the Palestinian Authority and its political party, Fatah. Fatah recently held a rally honoring the terrorists responsible for the first 2 murders in this current wave of violence. Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz tweeted that the Palestinian Arab terrorism is simply the same radical Islam as ISIS. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Gush Etzion.
Thanks, Chris. Well, here at home, Israeli filmmakers showcased their work in the Los Angeles areas over the last 3 weeks for the 29th Annual Israel Film Festival. And as John Wagi explains, in the future, the organizers hope to have more films about faith, including some from Christians.
Organizers are happy with this year's turnout, and executive director of the festival, Mayor Fenigstein, says the films on display in Hollywood's backyard featured young filmmakers.
I can say in 29 years we never had so many first-time filmmakers that are, making a first feature film, and that's very interesting because you feel that there's a new upcoming industry, a new wave of younger filmmakers.
Fenigstein says the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was the dominant theme in years past, but today's films deal with Israeli culture and tell stories. And while the films about faith are growing in the U.S., they're not so popular in Israel, the cradle of both Judaism and Christianity.
I don't know why. Maybe the Israelis are not so religious, at least they're filmmakers, so this is not such a topic that they're interested.
But that may change. Fenigstein is already planning for next year's festival, the 30th anniversary, and he hopes to broaden the audience for Israel's films to include Christians.
We want to be more connected to the Christian community, and we're already there. We want to do a very special event with the Christian community to bring them in to see at least one Israeli film that will be right for them to watch and to bring them to be close to Israel.
John Wagi, CBN News, Encino, California.